Top 5 games for 2 GB RAM PC. Let's go. On number 5 we have Far Cry 2. Far Cry 2 is a 2008 first-person shooter developed by Ubisoft Montana Real and published by Ubisoft. It is the second installment of the main Far Cry series, preceded by 2004's Far Cry and followed by 2012's Far Cry 3. Ubisoft has marketed Far Cry 2 as the true sequel to Far Cry, however the sequel has very few noticeable similarities to the original game. Instead, it features completely new characters and setting, as well as a new style of gameplay that allows the player greater freedom to explore different African landscapes such as deserts, jungles, and savannas. The game takes place in a modern-day Central African nation during civil war. The player takes control of a mercenary on a lengthy journey to locate and assassinate the Jackal, a notorious arms dealer. Far Cry 2 was released worldwide for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 in October 2008. It is backwards compatible with the Xbox One. Far Cry 2 is a sequel to the original Far Cry. The game features an open-ended experience. Players are able to ally with one or multiple factions, and to progress through the game world and missions as they see fit, resulting in a non-linear style of gameplay commonly referred to as sandbox mode that allows the story to progress at their speed and in the order they choose. Players can use a range of vehicles, including cars, trucks, boats and hang gliders, to travel within the 50 km 19 square mile gameplay area. The playing styles range from head-on assaults to stealthy infiltrations and assassinations. The game takes place in a sprawling African landscape, with terrain ranging from desert to savanna to jungle. On number 4 we have Battlefield Bad Company 2. Battlefield Bad Company 2 is a first-person shooter video game developed by the Swedish firm EA DICE and published by Electronic Arts for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, iOS and Kindle Fire systems. It is a direct sequel to Battlefield Bad Company and is part of the Battlefield game series. It was released worldwide in March 2010. The iOS port was released on the App Store on December 16, 2010. A Kindle Fire version was released in June 2012. The game is primarily a squad-level first-person shooter based in a contemporary modern warfare setting. Additionally, the game includes a single-player campaign, where the player reassumes the role of Preston Marlowe, the protagonist of the original game. The game's Frostbite 1.5 engine allows for destructible environments. Multiplayer maps, which allow for 5 different game modes, contain a wide selection of vehicles, aircraft and emplacements. While Bad Company 2 is primarily a first-person shooter, it follows other games in the series by allowing the player to control certain vehicles, including ATVs, APCs, tanks, and helicopters. On foot, players are given access to a variety of real-world small arms such as assault rifles and machine guns. Players can also jump, crouch, and sprint. They can carry one primary weapon and a pistol in multiplayer, or 2 primary weapons in single player, as well as grenades and other equipment. Players can fire from the hip, but zooming and using iron sights, reflex sights, or telescopic sights depending on the weapon will provide much better accuracy when shooting. Okay, on number 3 we have Crysis 2. Crysis 2 is a first-person shooter video game developed by Crytek, published by Electronic Arts and released in North America, Australia and Europe in March 2011 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. Officially announced on June 1, 2009, the game is the second main installment of the Crysis series and is the sequel to the 2007 video game Crysis and its expansion Crysis Warhead. The story was written by Richard Morgan, while Peter Watts was consulted and wrote a novel adaptation of the game. It was the first game to showcase the CryEngine 3 game engine and the first game using the engine to be released on consoles. A sequel, Crysis 3, was released in 2013. The player assumes the role of a Force Recon Marine called Alcatraz. Similar to its predecessor, it provides freedom to customize weaponry and abilities. Cry Tech wanted to avoid making another game set in a true jungle environment, as Far Cry and Crysis New York City has been dubbed an urban jungle. The urban atmosphere offers new options with relation to progressing and planning attacks. Players are able to navigate between floors and buildings, as well as a destroyed cityscape. On number 2 we have Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 is a 2012 action-adventure video game developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii U, and Microsoft Windows. It is the fifth major installment in the Assassin's Creed series, and a direct sequel to 2011's Assassin's Creed, Revelations. The game is released worldwide for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, beginning in North America on October 30, 2012, with the Wii U and Microsoft Windows release in November 2012. The plot is set in a fictional history of real-world events and follows the centuries-old struggle between the assassins, who fight for peace with free will, and the Templars, who desire peace through control. The framing story is set in the 21st century, and features series protagonist Damon Miles, who, with the aid of a machine known as the Animus, relives the memories of his ancestors to find a way to avert the 2012 apocalypse. The story is set in the 18th century, before, during and after the American Revolution from 1754 to 1783, and follows Desmond's half-English, half-Mohawk ancestor, Raton Hake-Tun, also known as Connor, as he fights the Templars' attempts to gain control in the colonies. Assassin's Creed 3 is set in an open world and presented from the third-person perspective, with a primary focus on using Desmond and Connor's combat and stealth abilities to eliminate targets and explore the environment. Connor is able to freely explore 18th-century Boston, New York City, and the American frontier to complete side missions away from the primary storyline. The game also features a multiplayer component, allowing players to compete online to complete solo and team-based objectives, including assassinations and evading pursuers. Ubisoft developed a new game engine, Anvil Next, for the game. Okay, on number 1, it's Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 is a 2010 action-adventure game developed by Avalanche Studios, published by Eidos Interactive and distributed by Square Enix for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The sequel to 2006's Just Cause, it was powered by Avalanche Studios' Avalanche 2.0 engine. It features Rico Rodriguez, a major operative of the fictional agency who arrives at Panau, fictional dystopian island nation in maritime Southeast Asia, to overthrow dictator Pandak Baby Pana and confront former mentor Tom Sheldon. The gameplay involves Rico fighting hostile militants with guns and a grappling hook, enabling players to tether objects to each other and slingshot into the air with the parachute. Just Cause 2 introduces the Chaos system, in which players must complete missions and destroy government property on Panau for Chaos points. These points are essential for story progression. Okay guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to like the video, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Okay, goodbye.